To episode 3 of the Sweet Shots podcast. I'm Lucas Johnson alongside Mark Johnson. We are down a man. Chuck Johnson decides to take a vacation this week. Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, I believe. I saw a great picture this morning of a nice little sunrise.
We have a great sunrise
we
right
have a great
here. I don't know why you need to go all the way to Myrtle Beach to see the sunrise.
Some would say temperature. Personally, for me, I like the cold.
The 15 degrees this morning wouldn't get it done on the beach.
Maybe not on the beach. But in his stead, we've got our first ever guest on the podcast. We started high, so I like where we're going with this. We got Pat. Is it Lipsea?
You can go Lipsea. It depends on where you are.
Lipsea.
Yeah, we'll say Lipsea.
Pat Lipsea's in the building. Food and beverage director here at Sweet Shots. Notable musician.
Notable. I like that. That's good.
Notable.
Definitely notable.
Yeah.
I mean, truth be told, when we were talking about who could we have fill in for Chuck, that was kind of where I'm going to ask you a lot about your music later.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, you're an extraordinary food and beverage mind. I believe I've never met a more talented food and beverage person in my life.
That's very kind.
You're really good at what you do. So we're going to pump that a little bit. But there's a lot of other things. There's many layers to Pat Lipsea. Many layers that we look to uncover today. So it'll be that'll be some fun.
I think it's going to be a great show. We had a great week of professional golf. We had some great scores being shot. Great local stuff going on. So I'm excited. It's going to be a good one. So Chuck, if you're listening to this, bummed you're not here, but maybe not that bummed because we got a great guy to fill your spot here. So,
the tour event this week's the
CJ Cup.
How do we know Chuck's not living some double life where he's actually not really in Myrtle Beach?
That is quite a coincidence.
He's hosting.
Is that a real thing? Holy buckets.
CJ Cup is in South Carolina too, right?
Yeah. It's what is that? Ridgeland, South Carolina is what I got.
So
I've never seen CJ Cup and Chuck not in the same place. Maybe.
Right? Has anybody looked any deeper into that?
It has been in Vegas in the past.
Well, there we go.
And he loves Vegas.
He's a Vegas guy.
I think we need to get our friends in QAnon on this and see if we can
uncover
scratch below the surface a little bit and find out
uncover
what's
a
really
little
going
dirt.
on.
What's going on with Chuck Johnson here? So I mean, it's not only was last week great, this next week's gonna be great too. But I mean, looking around the area, NDSU's out in Colorado, Denver, Colorado, playing some good golf out there.
The men, it's a smaller field, but it's a good field. There's 2 teams inside the top 50, if my notes are correct. Number 39, Brigham Young, is in the field, and number 16, Colorado State. A little home cooking for Colorado State. They lead at 1 under. The Bison are just they're at +8, so they're not that far back.
No, in reality, when you got a 54-hole golf tournament, one day you can make up 10 shots like that.
Now, granted, it's against a top 20 team, but the Bison, and we've mentioned this before, and I don't know that folks in our region, when you think of Bison athletics, you think of other things than golf. But the program Steve Kennedy is building or has built, they're legit. They're deep. Any one of those guys can play great. And to be now in a position to compete with top 50 teams, we can go into why the Bison have a tough time getting ranking points. But that's legit. This team's really good.
Yeah, and you said it. They're deep. I mean, any one of those guys, and in talking with Jake Scarproot and his family, he's the incoming freshman for this year from Shanley, hometown kid, and this is kind of a first for the program where he's coming in, everyone's returning, and they're deep enough where any one of those 8 guys can go out and play, and so it is a little different from when I joined. It was as a freshman, I'm playing golf, and so the depth is really built on that team where any one of those guys can go out and shoot a number. I think that's really cool to watch. It's fun to follow along. I mean, stuff like that, because at any point they could rattle off a 64 or 65, something like that, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, they're good. And back when you started, it was okay. So if people aren't familiar with college golf, there's 5 that travel. Count 4. So there's not a lot of room for error in a tournament. I mean, one guy can have a off day, and your teammates need to pick him up. But how many guys were on the roster when you played? Like 7?
7, no more than 8.
So to make that starting 5, you know, as long as you played well, maybe at that tournament or qualified fine, you're in the field. And I don't know what the saying would be, but a feather in your cap would be what it is. I think you played all 4 years. You played in all but one event. Is that right?
One event. Ironically, it was this event that I missed.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Stretch, because that was a strong team as well.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun.
A couple questions regarding NCAA golf, if we can touch on that
Let's
for a
do
second.
it.
Coming
Absolutely.
from somebody who has not spent a lot of time in that world, but I'm curious. Got questions.
Yep.
So first of all, when we when we say 8 on a roster, travel 5, count 4. So 5 are golfing.
Correct.
And you take top 4 scores.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. Just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
So when we talk about who's going to travel that week or to that tournament, is once we get to the beginning of a season, is it a situation where, all right, we got our starting 5, and that's like, you think about basketball, that rotation, unless there's injuries, typically doesn't change a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
So is it like that when we get into college golf, or is it more like Lucas was really struggling in practice this week. He can't he can't strike a wedge. Kid's gonna blade it over the green into the drink every other hole, and is it more fluid where, all right, this week you're coming with, stay home and work on your wedges, or when you get that top 5 established, does it pretty much roll from there?
It honestly varies a lot, right? Because stuff like that does happen. You hear about that. We're in a unique position up here, being in the northern climate, that our spring season and even into the later parts of fall, right? You can't get outside and practice, which means you can't get outside and qualify. It's tough to justify at a Division I level. We're going to go qualify on an 18-hole simulator round, right?
Yeah.
So when I was there, we had a pretty solid starting 5. It didn't move much. Towards the later end of my years, it was making an extra effort to bring individuals to a tournament. So you might travel 6 or 7, and then you would use that tournament as qualifying, because that's the outdoor round that you want to measure yourself by, right? So I have heard of coaches being like, I haven't seen what I like today in practice, or this last week in practice.
Mm-hmm.
Take a little bit, figure it out. We're going to go with someone else, rotate in. Up here, it's pretty solid, especially if your team's producing. Yeah. And knowing Coach Kennedy, I'm not going to call him a superstitious guy, but he's definitely got his methods of how he likes to go about it. And if his team's winning, he's not going to rattle that. So
Creature of habit.
Yep.
They could bring the guys out here and do the 30-shot analysis.
That'd be a great thing to do.
Actually, that is a good check of where your game's at.
Mentally, it's a lot like a playing 9 holes, just because mentally you have to focus every round. And for those that are listening that don't know what our 30-shot challenge is, it's essentially you enter in your handicap, or what your perceived handicap is, and that lets our system know how to compare you against other golfers of your skill level. And then basically it gives you the shots that it kind of plots you around a golf course. PGA National, I believe, is the golf course. Gives you random shots around the golf course, depending on how your performance is, whether it's proximity to the hole, distance, you do driving, wedges, approaches. It gives you a score, and then it tells you what it's going to work on. It gives you some great feedback, identifies your habits, stuff like that. But you have to be mentally there, because as a competitor, I like to have the best score, meaning that I have to focus for 30 shots in a row, So it's a neat little thing we got going on here. And I think if you're looking to get better, that's the way to do it right there.
Well, I was thinking about Coach Kennedy back in the day when he was coaching at Fargo South, probably back in the Tom Hoagie days. They had, I'm gonna throw out 50 kids go out for high school golf.
Mhm.
And they, on a late season where the snow, the courses are still covered with snow, they would have to determine who's going to make this team. Well, he went in the sports bubble, the golf dome back in the day, and I think all 60 kids got like 5 swings. And that's no electronics, no nothing. He watched him for 5 swings, and that's how he made his I don't know if he cut to 20 players or whatever his team roster was for JV and varsity.
Imagine.
And you had to do it. And I might be selling that short. It might have been like 100 kids. I mean, it was just an unbelievable amount of kids came out for golf, which is great. But how do you do a qualifier when you can't get outside because of the snow? So
It is a unique position we're in up here. And the fact, I mean, the best feeling for us as a team was, even if we didn't win, but we could go down south, coming right out of the snowbanks, and beat a majority of these teams.
it was fun.
It was awesome.
Fun to watch, kind of,
Felt good.
It
actually.
was awesome. That's my senior year. Our first tournament out of the season, South Carolina, or was that second or third? I don't remember.
CJ Open.
It was not. It was not.
You guys went down there and
True
waxed
blue.
them.
Yeah, we I think we won by 4 or 5, maybe. Anyway,
Yeah.
right out of the snowbanks, stepped off the plane, we won a tournament. That felt good.
Well, I think
That's
you
fun.
won the Summit League conference tournament, and the courses weren't even open up here yet.
Well, so we actually had 2 9-hole rounds that year, my freshman
Was
year.
it
was
like
2
in Hawley and
Now we played one
Barnesville?
one at the Meadows and one at Fargo, I think,
Oh,
for our
okay.
country club. But the girls, because their conference championship was a week before ours, so that was the year the girls also won,
the women?
the women, and they didn't have a single practice outside before conference,
Hmm.
So
and they won the title.
5 shots at the bubble.
Yeah,
Do
5
your
shots.
Do
at the
your
bubble.
worst, ladies.
You guys are traveling.
Yeah.
Let's go.
There is something to be said for that, whether it's, NDSU athletics or UND athletics or whatever. I guess specifically I'll say NDSU because I'm more familiar with it. But they're across the sports, there is a little bit of a chip on the shoulder, it seems like, with these squads. You see it a lot. And they're well coached and well recruited, don't get me wrong. But I think that edge being up here does give them something. You look at the softball team for years and years has gone
Yes.
down and had great success early in the spring, bringing it to these teams in the Southeast and on the West Coast that they grind all year round outside, and I don't think that's going to slow down with the facility upgrades that you're seeing in both of the schools up here. I mean, there's a lot that can be done in the off season.
Yeah,
So
I mean, it's great. I mean, talk about the new facility. That new football facility was it's massive, unbelievable. That plan went into place my junior year, so of course I got the whole talking point, selling point. This thing's gonna be awesome, so much better than the bubble. And then they said, "See you later."
Yeah.
Yeah.
do
Sorry.
you have any money? Can we get some money from you?
But it's phenomenal. I mean, for what it's going to do, golf team gets in there and practice. There's going to be nets that drop down. I mean, it's a massive facility, so that's going to
But they
be.
can't see full ball flight.
No, it's not a full ball flight. Not like out here, right? Yeah, I mean, it's for the selling point when I came in was that you can start getting better in the winter up here, because it was the shack. It was the first year the shack was going to be built. We had a new indoor chipping and putting facility, and then we got a TrackMan inside there. But it is true. I mean, with all of the advancements in technology between having a TrackMan, indoor chipping and putting, even facilities like this where we have heated bays and full ball flight, and then being able to kind of piggyback off the football team for a nicer indoor range, basically. I mean, playing golf in the north now is completely different than 7 years ago, even.
Yeah. Let alone when I played, it was you put your clubs away. Literally put your clubs away.
How about, so you had a brief stint of coaching college golf.
That's right. Yes. For the Dragons.
Go Dragons.
I was the coach of the
MSU,
MSU Dragons.
Was
It
that
Morehead
back when
State?
I was going to say, is that Morehead State University, Minnesota, or Minnesota State University?
Morehead State University. Ross Forgy, the legendary football coach, hired me to lead the men's golf program. And we had some talented players. James Clark of Bemidji fame was a fantastic player for us, was in the golf business for a hot minute. now lives in the Twin Cities, is a financial guy. I don't know exactly sorry, Jim, if you happen to listen to this. Brad Bangan was another fantastic player.
There's a great name.
That's a great golf name.
Brad Bangan. Fell in my lap. The guy was just a genius ball striker. Tended to not finish around with the putter that he brought with him.
He was putting with a 7
I mean, with the last name like that,
Driver.
Can you blame the guy?
Driver.
Yeah.
He finished putting with the driver on more than one occasion. Some great stories about Brad.
How about? I mean, we can go through your roster if you'd like, but how about? I remember a story about your practice facilities at one because you also coached Concordia for a little bit, right?
I did, yeah. So after MSUM, I coached at Concordia for the Cobbers, and that was a fantastic experience. Mostly local guys that were on the team, and we were competitive, but just couldn't get past the hump against Gustavus and St. John's. Were strong then, but our guys, we had good players. Kyle Newman kind of led that. Mike Simonich,
Who his son plays for NDSU.
yeah.
Ian.
Mike's son Ian is a fantastic
really good
player.
Really good player.
Now I know I'm getting old when I got guys. When Ian's dad played for me, but that's Brandon Rittering out of the cities. I mean, we were very competitive. But MSUM, we had to get creative with our indoor practice facilities. So I guess we did things in the indoors, but we were chipping off the Tartan intramural gym. You know, the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Remember the old tartan? I call it tartan. It was It was
not
synthetic.
It's not quite a rubber, but it's not like a wood, right?
Yeah, I know what you're talking.
Right.
Maybe State had that same surface up until probably a decade ago or something like
Yeah.
that. They actually played conference games on that. That was the basketball
Yeah.
floor. Yeah.
It was all the rage, probably in the late 70s, early 80s.
So no mat, you're just right off the floor.
Right off the floor, and we were like, okay, if you can hit these chip shots or pitch shots off this floor, the grass is going to be a piece of cake. And so we had a lot of competitions. But the story that I need to tell quickly, I'll give you the short version, is in the main gym, Alex Nemzik Fieldhouse, they had a large curtain on the south side of the facility, and they used that as a backdrop for graduation for years and years. Well, I saw it as a fantastic catch for golf balls.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we start that spring season indoors, and we are rifling drivers from, this is pretty cool. We can get back to like center court, as long as you don't pop sky one, we're ripping drivers into this. This is revolutionary.
Mm-hmm.
Well, things were all fine and dandy till they pulled that curtain out. I didn't realize it was happening at the time, or I would have stopped the young men from doing it. But they pulled the curtain out, and for graduation that May, and there were hundreds of holes in the curtain. It was like a felt curtain,
just popping straight through there.
Yeah,
I thought you were going to say dead pigeons, so it beats the alternative.
No,
Turns out
That's
we were
true.
just rifling at these pigeons all winter long.
no, I felt a little bit bad. They did. And then I don't know if there's any tie to this. Ironically, the program was cut the next year.
Can't afford more felt. It's a public school. Come on.
We cut the men's program.
Yeah.
Men's tennis and golf got the axe.
Hmm.
They added soccer for ladies.
Wonder what the tennis team did. Something worse than
How
felt.
many- Yeah.
Something worse than
What
piercing
they
felt.
ruined.
Yeah.
No, it's fun to see these programs doing well. And yes, the technology definitely putting kids in a position, young people, where they can improve their game, even though they're not heading south. And it's great. You're going to go play golf south, but there's a lot of merit to being close to home and being part of these great universities we have in our region.
I always said you could basically cheat winter going here, because if you're playing, I mean, you're got they're in Denver right now, and they're going to North Carolina, which is my favorite tournament ever. I mean, they have maybe a 24-hour window when they're back here, which, I mean, if you don't like traveling, that's too bad. But you're not in 16-degree weather.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
So, last question regarding collegiate golf, and then we'll move on to other things. But I was going to ask you a question regarding recruiting, and I'd imagine that most of the most of the North Dakota State guys now, and when you were on the squad, were probably local, regional. Does the arm reach too far outside of there? I'd imagine it'd be kind of tough.
Well, yeah. I mean, from my experience, I know guys have reached out to Coach Kennedy from around the country.
Just looking for an opportunity
Yeah,
kind of thing.
he likes to take the talent from Minnesota, North Dakota, Iowa, Wisconsin. We've had some Wisconsin. So we're kind of the upper Midwest team, which kind of makes it all the more special because there is a ton of talent up here around this area. And I think it's a great place to show it off. So it does reach pretty far in just the golfing community itself, right? There's great tools to reach out to college coaches that just sends out a blast. But Kennedy likes to field a team of some hometown boys and go out and take it to them that way. So
I think he's always looking for the best player out of North Dakota. And then a lot of these guys that got overlooked by the University of Minnesota out of the Twin Cities. And it's worked.
So it's not unlike football in that regard.
Probably. Very, very similar. Good point.
Own the state, and then, a guy, linebacker who's made, you got Grant Olson, guy like that. Legendary NDSU linebacker. Couple inches too short to get a serious look as a linebacker at a upper echelon FBS school. Comes up here, and has a legendary
Owns
career.
it.
Yeah. Just snuck out of the Twin Cities.
That's not a bad spot.
So if you're a prospective collegiate golfer, has Division I talent, and you're choosing schools in the upper Midwest, in the area, this is an honest question, not just patting ourselves on the back. Is the presence of Sweet Shots and the year-round golf capabilities that we offer, is that an attractive quality? Is that something that might help tip the scales to go to NDSU versus, let's say, SDSU? The facility, the proximity to this facility, and the ability to have a more realistic golf experience to watch full flight year-round.
I think that's huge. I mean, we even saw it when we first opened up in that spring season when it got too cold or when it was raining, to be able to, because they still have access to the bubble. But as a fine-tuned golfer, quote unquote, right? I mean, the ball flight tells a story, and if you're only getting 50% of that, 60% of that, it's tough to trust it sometimes.
Yeah.
And so even if it's just coming out here once a week just to see, see it, ball flight, stuff like that, I think that's huge.
Agreed.
If you're a guy like me who's a recreational golfer at best, the first 120 yards of that drive is just the beginning of the journey. It's the prelude.
I witnessed that last night.
Yeah.
That's my part. I want to pivot. We got to jump into.
Yeah, you guys
Pat's
took it down last night. It sounded like couple victories, first nights of leagues at Sweet Shots.
Yeah.
We took down a couple big dogs too last night.
Well,
I was
putting contest champions. Both of those guys.
Yeah.
Tied
Oh,
for
were
first.
they?
Yeah. So they're players.
Yeah. It was no bull crap, man. Tell you what, I went out there and I had to warm up stuff. Mark asked me to be a
last minute deal.
To be a last minute sub. Came into the office and was like, "Hey, think you can golf tonight? What are you up to tonight?" I'm like, "Well, I was going to hang around and make sure the leagues went off, so I guess I'll golf when I do that." Perfect. Super. What better way to make sure that beer is getting delivered to tables than to order some beer at a table,
Quality check.
Quality check. So, but then I saw we're playing with Scarp and Jimmy, and I'm just like, those guys are pretty good, and Mark's pretty good. Yeah, he's all right, But I'm just like, holy buckets! I went out and I'm hitting balls beforehand. I'm topping them, I'm blading them, I'm slicing them every which direction. I'm just like, oh my god, you don't have delusions of like being in like, you know what? I think based on my performance in this men's league tournament, playing with these three guys, I'm gonna strike out on the amateur tour and just see what happens, start building points,
just figure it out.
But
right.
You would really like to not embarrass yourself. And I did not embarrass myself.
Not at
That
all.
was like the high end of my expectation for last night. Got a W for you guys. Felt good that I could help out. So
You shot 43.
yeah, wasn't bad.
Jeez.
Without my bulbous handicap, I still would have won.
There you go.
So boom.
Yeah.
If
They're
Chuck's not careful, he might. I mean, he's out of leagues. and he's out of a podcast job.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
this is a dangerous time to be traveling to South Carolina
Keep
right
disappearing,
now.
Chuck. Keep disappearing.
For suspicious circumstances around a golf tournament.
Right. Right.
Pat starts getting invited to our Thanksgiving family celebration.
Hey guys, I made stuffing. What's going on?
It's rolling in around Christmas.
Yeah.
No, legit though. So I wanted to just we got you on here. You are an interesting cat, and I really enjoy you personally, and we'll talk a little bit about your work. But this is a little out of order that I had written. But let's talk about your golf game.
Sure.
When did you come to golf? Because baseball was your deal, right?
Yeah.
Baseball was your sport.
Yep. Played baseball my whole life. One of those guys from, T-ball on up through high school, Legion, summer ball, the whole thing. Coached, umpired, everything. It was my whole family, me and my little brother and my uncles before me, it was year round as you can be up here, especially in Mayville. We didn't have the amenities. They actually do now. They have a nice, it's a hockey arena up there that was built about 25 years ago, but it's been fit so that they actually can practice year round baseball. There's some good facilities so the kids can at least throw and hit.
Well, Mayville State, they were known that college program back in the day. Maybe they still are. I don't follow close, but really quality, high-end players came out of there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Scott Berry has been at the helm of the Mayville State baseball program for, I don't want to get it wrong, a lot of years. I had the pleasure of playing with his son, Mickey, in high school in Legion. Mickey's a great guy, great ball player. He played at Mayville State for a while. He still plays amateur to this day. He wants to play till he's 45. I have no doubt that he can do it. Had the opportunity to spend some time with him this summer, but yeah, him and his family have kept the Mayville State program. Scott and his family have kept the Mayville State program relevant for a number of years. He's a college baseball Hall of Famer, and he can go to Mayville and still see him mowing the field, doing a lot of the upkeep. It's an NAIA Division II school. There's not a ton of cash flying around that place. So when you run a program in a institution like that, you take on a lot of helms. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, so baseball is prevalent in Mayville. It's a good baseball town. So that was kind of us growing up, and then beer league softball for several years until one year I went to one of the 3 leagues I was playing on to practice in the spring, one of our first practices, and I found that I just could not throw a ball anymore. There was probably some scar tissue in my shoulder that had been building up since I was 8 or something like that from chucking balls, So I'd have to go out. I played first base. I'd have to take the cut about 15 feet into the right field grass and then run it in halfway to home, and then kind of shot put it in, and I'm just like, I think my softball days are over. So it was fine. It was about time anyway. So but yeah, I started playing golf in my late 20s with a buddy of mine, and my then wife's family are really big into golf, and they were great, and they really got me into it more. And had an opportunity to play some awesome courses and have some fun and chunk it around a little bit until I learned how to at least hit it straight. And it's one of those things where, I have young kids and a pretty busy career. So there's not a ton of time. Right. There's not a ton of 4-hour windows to go and have a leisurely 18 holes, but I always cherish it when I do. I try not to swear too much or get too upset, and remember that I was really looking forward to this. Right. I asked for this. I did this to myself.
You probably paid money for it.
Exactly. Probably. Yeah. Hard-earned money. Yeah. So yeah, but it's something that I immediately took to. The kind of the peaceful serenity. You want to do the corny stuff like teeing off on Edgewood on the first hole at 7:15 in the morning on an August morning. I mean, it just feels great. Yeah. It's quiet. And it's just
morning golf is the best.
Yeah.
I mean,
100%. Yeah. So yeah, it's something that clicked with me right away. And then, next thing you know, I'm watching golf on TV and working at a golf facility and the whole kit and caboodle. So
that's as soon as that Golf Channel clicks on and you're like okay with it being there.
Yeah.
Then you got the edge.
Right. You're watching. You're watching.
You have any goals? Do you have any goals with the game? I mean, not that you, like you said, I want to get on the amateur list or whatever.
Right.
But, what's your goal with the game? Yeah. I mean,
I would like to be able to manage my time to the point where I could play consistently enough to establish a handicap and then start to improve on that, like without even putting numbers on it. I'd like to be able to play, if I were to be able to play 2 to 3 rounds a month, 4 rounds a month, let's just say an average of once a week. And a lot of that is time management. You need time for the kids. You're not going to give up your time with the kids. You got to
Right.
make sure your work's taken care of. You got relationships and all that fun stuff. But at the same time, I feel like if I can just wake up at 6 once a week and then convince myself that it's okay to come into work at 10 instead of 8 once a week, then you can make that happen. And once you can put a number to it, then you can start doing the work. You mentioned the 30 shot challenge on Top Tracer. It's awesome. It's a legitimate tool for an established golfer, for somebody who is, whether you're like yourself working into a professional role, or you're a collegiate person or a competitive high school golfer, or you're someone like me who's a 40-year-old rec golfer who's just trying to figure out why you do the things you do and when you do the things you do and stuff. It's super, super fun. So that's a tool that I've been using lately that I'll continue using into the winter, and continue putting on Putt View for 10 minutes a day. And then, when we come out in the spring, Corn Ferry Tour, here we come. Let's go.
I love it.
I've been really impressed that you're disciplined to get down to the putting green.
I know.
You're 10, 15 minutes.
It's his release, though.
Yeah.
He sneaks away.
You
It's
do,
his
yeah,
release.
you need a release. But there's a lot of guys that even in the summer, they'll go to a golf course and like actively avoid the putting green. So that's a big part of the game that you're focusing on. And maybe it's easier than turning on a bay and taking some swings. You get less sweaty, all that.
It's easier than working, is the kicker.
Yeah.
It's a real sacrifice of me to stop working for 15 minutes and go putt a golf ball.
Well, I like the fact that one of your goals is to establish a handicap, because the BS we threw at those guys last night, we put you down as a 32.
That was based on Lucas's feedback. He asked what an 18-hole round was. I'm like, I don't know. I'm like 105, and he's like, okay, 32. I was like, super duper, sounds good to me.
The quick math of
32, so he gets half that in a 9-hole match. And I think James Carnick's a 9.6, and we net that down after all the math. This young man over across the table from us is getting 11 shots from James Carnick.
Slaughtered him.
And
I doubt he made it home last night. He probably, keeled over halfway.
He might have
home.
been the closest to the pin champion. I don't know. He gave a lot of chances at it.
When?
Last night. I don't know.
On the game, or in the league, or in the closest to the hole?
Oh, there were two of them. I didn't know there were two chances.
No, are you talking about the closest to the hole?
For everybody.
No, we've got a guy. I forgot his name. Shoot, Stensgaard. He knocked it in there. One of the last players. He knocked it in there to a foot.
Ooh,
to win
$100
gift
That's
card.
good.
That'll be posted on Facebook.
Yeah.
Well, James did walk away as a co-medalist for the putting contest for leagues, so he got that going for him.
Well, and I did. It was important to me, and this was on our last on hole 9. I had a chip, and I had to make bogey. I couldn't screw around on a double bogey and make this happen. It was important to me that I beat him straight up, and I needed a 43. I knew he was sitting at a 44, and I'm like, okay. I'm obviously giving him too many strokes here, or he's giving me too many strokes here. I'm like, if I can beat him straight up, then I can sleep at night with taking this victory. So, and I did get the 43. So we can take
really
that.
good.
We can take that.
But here's the deal: you and I both won our matches yesterday, and there had to have been. It's a little home cooking.
Yeah.
Although I'd never played this format where you actually chip to the putting, which is fun. We'll talk about that in another show.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun. But I think we caught both our opponents well. They didn't even know they had to bring their own clubs.
Yeah. Yeah. I noticed that you were Scarp's caddy.
Right. He's
as
using
well
my
as playing.
clubs.
Yeah.
They had no idea what they had really signed up for.
Mm-hmm.
So, but hey, a win's a win. We appreciate you filling in for Chuck. And that's
my
all
pleasure.
that matters right now. We took down what could be the favorites to win that league.
Once they figure it out.
It's a big win.
Once they figure out.
We took them down.
It's a big win.
That's a great win.
Okay, so that's a little bit about your golf.
Yep.
Okay, I want to get into your music. I'm really intrigued by your previous life, which we're talking like more than a decade ago.
There's a couple of them. Yeah,
let's get into it. I'll tee this up. I don't know the details, but I would say when you were downtown Fargo and you're looking for live music and and you're hearing what's going on, who's doing what in the live music scene. Yeah, I would have to venture a guess that you were right in the mix, leading the charge, the live music scene, and to the point where you're writing your own stuff and performing weekly. Is that a pretty good?
Yeah, from the years of probably 2005 to maybe 2004 to 2010, I was extremely active. There was a couple years there where when I say the sweet brag, like, well, I used to be a professional musician. There was actually 2 years where I made more money playing music than I did cooking food. And that was probably 06 and 07. And I mean, there's a couple reasons I was able to achieve that. One is I was making very little money cooking food. So it wasn't like I went on tour or had giant royalties or anything like that. I was just grinding in bars and clubs. I mean, if you had a stage in Fargo between those years, I played it. Like I just did. I was playing weird gigs like, hey, we've got a wedding reception at so and so dive bar in Moorhead. Need you to come and play it. Sure, let's do it. And like, hey, we've got a radio show in Thief River at a VFW. Like, okay, I'll put my guitar in the car, And I was kind of that guy that people called because I didn't have a band. It was just me. I traveled light. It was a guitar. I didn't even have a DI box. Be like, you got a DI box? You can plug into the mixer. Sweet. I'll be there. I'll bring a 1/4 inch. Cool. And I could kind of be wherever. I had didn't have a family at the time. I could be there as long as it didn't interfere with my like 25 hours a week cooking. I could make it happen. Yeah. So, but yeah, I played actually in a band in high school. I was in the legendary Mayville post-grunge outfit Fugitive Grey with my good friends James Hastings, Fred Frenzel, and a gentleman named Jeremy Stoneburner. We were playing Misfits covers and Weezer covers and a few originals and all this weird stuff in Mayville, North Dakota. We played a gig in Hatton, North Dakota one time. They did not know what to think of us, but I
can't imagine why.
it was something else. I think I'll scrounge some of that stuff up one of these days. I have a CD laying around. I'll let you listen to it. It was good. Honestly though, like I listened to it now, I'm like, holy buckets. Like we wrote those songs when we were 16. Like they were good. They were good songs. We didn't know how to get them out to people. We didn't know how to play them properly. Probably weren't the most insightful lyrics in the world and things like that. But at their core, they were good songs. There was a bass there, and we were having a ton of fun. Went to college in different places, so did that thing for a while, and then yada yada yada. End up playing a couple of gigs after I wrote a few songs after a short stint living in Colorado. Cooking at a place called the Steamboat Grand. Came home with a handful of songs after a particularly egregious young 20s heartache. And next thing you know, I'm playing at Ralph's, legendary Ralph's Corner Bar in the back room, same stage that was graced by bands like Everclear and the White Stripes and a couple of those guys that came through. And yep.
It's across the street now from Rustica.
Which used to be
Why are you looking at me when you're telling that?
Well, because you're the youngin' in the room and you have no idea where or what he's talking about.
It was and this isn't the place to dissect the politics of neighborhood development, but Kirby's and Ralph's in Moorhead, it was a very, very special place for a couple generations of people, specifically with live music. Kirby's was the corner that rocked, and Ralph's was across the street and had a smaller stage, and it was a different kind of vibe, more rock, more punk, more indie kind of stuff. But I mean, they had music there 7 nights a week. I mean, it was crazy what was going on in that corner. And time is time. Things happen, progress, etc. But that's where I kind of got my start
on Ralph's. Mm-hmm. Bob Wood and his brother owned Ralph's.
Okay,
and they made great lunches there, homemade.
Mm-hmm.
Bob Wood was classmates with Roger Maris, baseball fame from Shanley High School.
Wow. There you go.
That's it. That's the story.
That's
but
the story.
Bob Wood ran Ralph's.
I remember when they announced that Ralph's was closing. We went in there and me and my buddies went in there. I was probably 22 when Ralph's closed. So I had 2 hard years of Ralph's going. And they put a sign up that said, no new tabs, pay your tabs. This was a bar where you could still start a tab and like pay it at the end of the month. The regulars would come in and be like, put on my tab. Like people say, put it on your tab unless you're a member of a country club. Now that's not a thing, but yeah, I mean, they're writing up 6 hams, 2 Windsors.
Yes.
All right. Paid at the end of the month. But I was like, what do I mean? You can just start a tab and you can't start a tab. These guys can start tabs.
No, you had a lot of business. I mean, area business people would go there for lunch. Yeah. And they were really well known for their lunch. And it was, I would go. I was working at the Morden Center Mall, just a hop, skip, and a jump away. And for Rick and Bud Johnson, we'd run over there for a home cooked lunch. I mean, it was legit. And then they'd have dinners too, home cooked dinner, and then that place would flip somewhere after dinner into.
It was
okay.
It's at one point you look around and be like, "What just happened? When did this happen?"
Yeah,
and you still see that in certain places. Like, oh, I was paying too much attention to this baseball game. Something happened around me. The world changed.
That's I saw a couple first times when I was in that bar. I'm not going into that in this show.
Yeah.
But it was like, oh, really?
Yeah.
It's kind of what happens at Dempsey's now, in my opinion.
Yep.
Somewhere after dinner, all of a sudden it goes.
In a lot of ways, Dempsey's kind of filled the void left by Ralph's in terms of scene, local
They do a
scene
lot of live music there
and culture, and the aquarium upstairs with what they did when they first opened that up with Chris Hennon and Jay Miller and Josh Voltz and the guys that got that particular venue going. I was actually a little bit of Pat Lipsea trivia while we're on the topic. I was supposed to be the first guy ever to play at the aquarium. I was the opener at the first gig for a touring band, of which I don't remember their name. And they tacked a guy on last minute. So now I'm the second guy to ever play at the aquarium, and that just doesn't have the same snap to it at all. I'm like, well, who invited Marcus here to play? Like, come on. He was a great that guy, had a great voice. But no, anyways, I without getting too far off track, I was really active for about 5-6 years, and I played a ton. Side Street, a lot of places that don't exist anymore, like most of them. The original side went back when Side Street was a Side Street, the old Mosquito Landing, and Great Northern Brewery, places like that. And I would do two kinds of gigs. I would play what you call like a showcase gig, and that's where I would play maybe a handful of my favorite or obscure covers and then originals. So, I might do 13 songs in a set. 8 would be original. There'd be 4 or 5 kind of different covers. And those were always my favorite, typically. Just you get a little bit more into it. It's more about the music. People are typically there to see music. And then you'd have what I would call my South Fargo life. And that's when I would come down to the old JT Cigarros, another place that's closed. Big D's, place that's closed. None of these places are open anymore. I could be making all this up. You guys would have no idea. I played at Shenanigans. That was always a great gig. Oh man, I killed it at Shenanigans. But it's that place with the cheese sticks, Farva loves, all the crap on the walls, Shenanigans. That's right. That was a Super Troopers reference. Sorry about that. Yeah. But anyways, and these are like, now we're getting into like, with the Johnson 5, your mix kind of gigs. You're talking 3-4 hours, multiple sets, taking breaks, throwing the kitchen sink at them because you got to fill time at times. Yeah. You're wiped afterwards. You typically a little schnookered afterwards. Got to find a way home. Got to come back and pick up the PA the next day. But they paid. Those gigs paid. That was the difference. I very rarely made anything at a showcase gig. So I would drive for show, so to speak, downtown and play my showcase gigs because there was a period of time when I was a pretty talented songwriter. Some of those I'll look back at those. I'm like, wow, there was some stuff in there. If I could have honed my craft a little bit and focused, like there maybe was a not very lucrative career in there for me, but I probably could have stretched it out a little bit, maybe gone on a tour or two, but didn't, and that's fine. But where I would putt for dough was down south, where I would be playing at Cigarros for a couple $100 a night and that kind of thing. So, and that was kind of what I did for years. And then I'd wake up at, 8:30, I'd wipe the crust out of my eyes and I'd go open the line at Red Lobster. I'd get my butt kicked there cooking for 8.5 hours. And then I'd go home, maybe take a nap, maybe crack a beer, dust off the old guitar, make sure it wasn't too sweaty from the night before and drive it to whatever bar I was going to. And that was kind of life. I mean, it was a wild handful of years. And if I wasn't playing, all my friends were in bands and we were all kind of living the lifestyle. So you're always, at the aquarium or the Nestor. Oh God, I played the Nestor 60 times. Doesn't exist anymore. Not even standing that one.
It's more than
people should stop. It's a good thing people stop booking me because I am a widowmaker when it comes to bars. So, but and as it happens with stuff like this, typically it's with bands because somebody gets married or somebody gets a quote unquote real job or whatever, and the band breaks up. But for me, it was just me, and I kind of did both of those things, and I broke up the band. And when I played, I initially was billed. It was kind of an ironic, like a joke name. It was Pat Lipsea and the Pat Lipsea Explosion. It's a take on a joke from a movie called High Fidelity. Brain fart. Kathleen Turner and the Kathleen Turner Overdrive was the name of a band in High Fidelity. So called it Pat Lipsea and the Pat Lipsea Explosion. that kind of morphed down to PLX. So I was billed as PLX for a while. And then finally, in my mature age, when I got into my late 20s, I just was billed as Pat Lipsea. But I used to tell people that I broke up the explosion when I moved to Grand Forks for my ex-wife was going to law school. So I moved up there, and I took a job as a culinary operator for Darden Restaurants at the Olive Garden, at the then fresh opened Olive Garden. That was an interesting 3 years. That's another podcast. But there wasn't the time. It was probably run its course a little bit. I hadn't been writing, so there wasn't a whole lot of new content. It was kind of like, didn't I see you play this set 2-3 years ago? Like, it's fine, but at some point I'm like, hey, you guys coming out to my show? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, I get it. It's fine. It's cool, man.
No, I know. Yeah.
I wouldn't either, So I kind of stopped playing and moved up there, and didn't play for 10 years, almost 10 years. I played my first show in a decade at Sledsters in Grand Forks in June of 2021. And the funny thing about that, there's two funny things about that. One is that it was my first show in a decade. It was also the site of Fugitive Grey, my high school band's first ever show, back when it was a juice bar called Cosmos. Now it's a bar called Sledsters. And also, this is just complete coincidence, my grandma sadly and unexpectedly passed away about 4 or 5 days before the show, like 3 days before the show. And we did a quick turnaround funeral, and the show was the day of the funeral in Grand Forks. And I was just like, do I need to cancel the show? My mom's like, why would you cancel the show? We're all going to come. So it ended up being kind of like a wake.
Oh, wow.
And it ended up being it was a really special night. It was a lot of fun. I was, folks that never would have been able to make it were there. I had family from all over the country, obviously, that were there. And we jammed, man. We jammed and we cried and we had a good time. And it was really fun. So, and the goal with music now is to play a couple times a year, like in a full gig, eventually get enough songs without swears so I can fill in at Sweet Shots from time to time. But yeah, that's the long version.
I saw you play this spring at Sons of Norway, downtown Fargo.
Troll Lounge.
That's the first time I'd been in there.
And your buddy Shane played after.
Yep. My 40th birthday.
Great stuff. I mean, you're obviously really talented, and you've been away from it for 10 years. And I always go back to the golf connection. I mean, when you're playing golf competitively and you're performing at a certain level, it's a razor. I mean, you're razor sharp to play at that level. And I equate that to music. You lose your chops in music, right?
100%.
And you got to get it back. And there's a lot of things you need to struggle with. It's not just the physical stuff of remembering chord progressions. It's actually getting comfortable up there, and you're delivering things like that. So I really love the correlations between golf and music. Yeah. And you're living that right now because you started with your golf, and you're coming back with your music, and you just got a ton of talent. So it's
I appreciate that. That it's funny that you mentioned that the comfort of it, because you know how to go GCD, you know a chord progression, you know the lyrics probably. And if not, you put it on an iPad, or you have, I'm old now, so I use my cheater binder where I used to just try and play from memory, which there's mixed results at times with that. But the show at the Troll Lounge, I remember I was filling an hour and a half or an hour and 40 minutes, something like that. And I wanted to play without a break. I was just going to charge through it. That's what I was going to do the whole time. I'm like, I'm going to roar through this set, and I'm going to be screaming and sweaty and drunk when this thing's over, and my voice is going to hurt and my fingers are going to be bleeding, and we're just going to make it happen. And 4 or 5 songs into it, I couldn't get comfortable. It was the week of our new store opening here when we just opened. Yeah, we'd just been doing all of our training, our full crew training all week long. And I facilitated a lot of that. So I was just yelling all week long, just like, hey, welcome to Sweet Shots. I'm Pat. We're really glad that you chose us. This is Mark and Chuck. It's a family business. We're excited to be a part of the community. I mean, it was just like, and it was doing that 3 times a day for 7 days straight. And then it's Saturday night. We had a session that morning, and I got there and I'm just like, I can barely sing. I'm not hitting the notes. My voice is cracking. And I remember thinking about 4 or 5 songs into this. I'm just like, I don't know how I'm going to finish the set.
That's not a good
feeling. I felt awful.
It's like getting the shanks in the middle of a tournament round.
That's what it was. And I'm like, I got to finish this round right now.
You got to figure it out.
This is going to be tough.
Buckle down and figure it out.
And that's what you do. You summon somebody to bring you a shot of Jameson. I'm like, I got a shot of Jameson up here. I just had to loosen up, honestly. And I threw back a little Irish whiskey and got myself loosened up. And you find that song that gets you comfortable. You find an easy one, maybe do a layup, play an old Tom Petty song or something like that. That's not going to challenge your range too much, and you get yourself going. And then by the end of it, we had a really, really fun time. It was it was a blast. So,
That was a good night.
Well, I hope you continue as time allows to, work on not only your golf, but get that music back. And in time, maybe folks out here at Sweet Shots be able to come out and listen to a little Pat Lipsea.
I'm
mini
practicing.
set.
Mark makes the joke that I have a different excuse every Thursday, and he's right. But and they're usually legitimate, but it is different. There's a time, like I said, somebody could call, I'd hop in the car, I'd drive to Thief River, I'd drive to Crookston. You could go down to Fergus and play weird shows when promoters or bar owners or whatever just needed a guy to come in and try to entertain his crowd for a little bit. But those times have changed, now it's like, holy buck, it's 5 songs. Ooh, I'm going to have to go. I really got to get into this one, and it's like, and it could be too, just like the change in expectation for myself. Like maybe I just didn't mind going out there and making a butt of myself for a little bit, and now it's just like, well, if I'm going to play 5 songs, they're going to be perfect and they're going to be really good. And they're going to be a fair representation of what I do. Whereas there I'm like, free bar tab. Let's go. All right. I'll figure something out. I'll figure something. Hey, you get what you pay for, bud. Let's go. You're getting the $75 pat tonight. Party on, so.
Well, I love the live music scene in our region. There's a lot of talented people. Your history and being a part of that, I can appreciate. I think that's really, really neat. And like I said, I hope that you, as time allows, I know you're juggling a lot between work and great family, 2 young girls that keep you going, keep you busy. But as time allows, love to hear you play, and I think community be better for it to have you.
Yeah,
talented guys like you doing your thing. So
absolutely,
we'll get there. Should we tackle a little fantasy?
Little quick overview on the DraftKings.
Well, this can be really quick because I won last week. Yeah. Hands down, at 470 points. I rode Hoagie, Thigala, and I actually doubled my money last week. And if you remember, how I picked my team was I went middle of the road. I just if your average spend is 8,300 a player, that's where I was, 8,300 a person.
Yeah, no, I mean it was respectable. What was it, like 457 or something that you had?
470.
470. Okay.
470. I won by at least 40 some points over you and Chuck, so it wasn't even that close.
Okay, hold on now. But so the biggest story is Chuck's last again.
Mr. Analytics, he subscribes to all the...
Andy's not here, so let's just let him have it.
Cut loose.
However, as we're trying to build this knowledge of DraftKings and helping folks understand how to play and how to eventually make money, the guy that knows the most about it and that has had the best track record has underperformed the last 2 weeks. So it's a bit unpredictable.
It is. Well, I mean, look, it's gambling. So when it comes down to it, it's luck, right? I mean, we have zero, as much as we want to have control, we have no control over these
What
guys.
kind of podcast is this?
Well,
gambling.
Actually, the way we're doing it is we're proving that you need to have 3 different versions of a team. You need an analytics team, the strokes gained, you can grind on that, understand the golf course. Is it proximity to the hole that tends to win? So have that team, and then do a team with course history, right? Yep. That
they play well.
They played well there without course history. Maybe it's a team like I did. You just understand the buy and who's trending and who's playing well.
Yeah.
And then a gut team. Back to that point, who's playing well? What are the trends?
I mean, it's the game of golf. It's when you feel good, you're gonna play good, right? I mean, it's just you ride the streak. You know that what your swing's doing, you're not having to think. I mean, that's a true part of golf, and at the highest level, it's the same as just going out on your weekend round. I feel good today, right? So, I mean, it's I'll take a second. I'll take a second over Chuck.
All right,
that's fine.
Do you ever do like a funny name team, or try to do anything like that, or a guys that wear red hats team, and just throw that against the wall and see what sticks?
There's been some teams that were born in certain regions of the world. I know guys have done that.
Mm-hmm.
Last year I had a friend.
Only guys from Nebraska,
stuff like that. Yeah. I had a friend do just a team from Asia. Can you say that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that
Asian guy team.
Asian guy team?
Talented golfers from that region. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot. And at
was
the
the
Masters
Masters,
last year,
right?
and he did really well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's not necessarily a science behind it, but we're going to try and
But just
give
like
you reasons why to pick it.
Sure.
You know,
just
Okay,
like any game of chance, you're doing you set yourself up at the end of the day. It's like being a manager in baseball.
exactly.
Hey, at the end of the day, you guys got to hit the ball.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
tell
You can
them.
do all the analytics you want,
Yeah.
but if they don't perform, if they're not striking.
Exactly.
Okay, do you want to do your team first?
Yeah, I'll get into
got
it.
time
So,
for this?
Yeah, we're going South Carolina. It's Tom Fazio design course, 7,600 yards. So it's long. So interesting to note, again, second week in a row, no cut line. Everybody's playing all 4 days.
Is this a reaction to Live Golf? Or is this something that they do?
No, it is.
Okay.
It is. Some might say, but it
Okay.
is the second year.
Okay,
Or
okay.
third year that
All right,
they do.
all right, fair enough.
But it's a really strong field for early on, and that's because it is a $10.5 million pot.
Okay.
So
Just
or
enough
a
cash
purse.
to go around.
Yep. So
Yep.
like you got guys like Justin Thomas, Rory McIlroy, Colin Morikawa. Scotty Scheffler's in it. I think 5 of the top 10 players in the world are playing in this, and for an early tournament, that's big. So the stuff that I've got to look at, you want to look at some approach play because it is a longer golf course. You got to have guys that are good at the iron play. And then because of the Tom Fazio design, there's a lot of bunkers. So that short game and putting, they got big Bermuda greens this week. So because of that, my lineup, I wasn't quite middle of the road. I went more on the analytics side of things. But I definitely steered away from the top guys. Like Rory McIlroy is sitting at $1,100.
He's big dollars.
Like that is usually you
It's
don't
insane.
see guys over 10. So, I mean, and you get a $50,000 budget. So that's over a fifth of your budget for one guy.
So it's Rory and then Scrubs.
Right.
That's all you
But there is a case because it's a no cut event. You can find some guys that are down the road a little bit.
just
but
Rory and a bunch of guys with goofy names.
that's right. No pictures on their DraftKings. 'Cause
Yeah,
they're
there you go.
just flags.
Bunch of club pros.
Yep. So I started out with Sung J M. I mean, the guy's he's had a good start to the season. He's proved he can make birdies, but the important stat that I saw was that he's great at avoiding the bogeys. Bogey avoidance, really good. He also plays really well on Bermuda greens. So Sung J M's my first guy, $9,600. Then I went back to my horse, Tom Kim. I just love the guy.
Yep.
Player. He's a great approach player, great bunker player. And the important stat that I looked at was fairway proximity from 125 yards to 200 yards and 250 plus yards. So statistically, 67% of the shots last year at this golf course came from that yardage. He was sixth in that, so top 10. So
that's a deep dive into stats right
it
there.
was a deep. No, I went into it. Yeah. So that's 67% of those shots in the tournament came from 125 to 200 or 250 plus.
So you look for the guys that excel in proximity to
In
hole
that.
from that. See, I hope this works out for you. I mean, I want to win next week,
I do
but a
too.
guy that's working that hard on stats, I hope that works out for you.
I do too. I'm kind of taking Chuck's role. So then I went back to Taylor Montgomery. I think this might be third week in a row he's on there. 8,200. He's statistically best putter in the fields, great on Bermuda greens, and he avoids the bogeys. So we're keeping the trend alive. I went Shane Lowry because of his short game, and he's just a great guy. I love watching his swing. Great swing.
Like to have a beer with that guy.
It would probably end up being multiple beers with
Yeah,
that
it'd be
guy. Again, that same fairway proximity, he's ninth. I'm going Tom Hoagie. He's a great value pick at like 77 or
I
something
agree.
like that.
7,700.
I mean, for a value pick,
Yep.
the guy's played well. Statistically, he's eighth in that fairway proximity. So he plays, I mean, he's playing well. And then I rounded it out with Russell Henley. So again, statistically, he's a great pick. He's top 20 in a lot of strokes gain categories from putting, approach, bunkers, all of it. He's a great driver of the golf ball. He's actually first in that fairway proximity.
Russell
So-
Henley is one of those PGA Tour guys. He literally could be in this room with us right now. We probably wouldn't recognize him, but he's made millions of dollars.
Oh, he's made a great
He's
living.
just a fantastic living on the PGA Tour.
Hmm.
But he could show up at Sweet Shots today and
Yeah.
just come in and probably hit
Yeah.
some balls.
I'm really excited about Russell Henley because at $7,300,
Great value.
great value pick for statistically how good he could be. So those are my 6 guys. I feel pretty good about it.
Okay, that's a nice team, but can I?
Yeah, now you get
I hope that you win based on all
Me
your
too.
analysis.
me too.
But here's what I'm doing. I have a solid team based on trend, just trend.
trending.
How you playing? How you playing? John Rahm. I'm spending the money. $10,900 on Rahm. Did you
He's
see what
second
he
most
did?
expensive, isn't he?
Did you see what he did in the Spanish? Is it the
the Spanish Open.
Open.
Yeah.
Oh, he destroyed the field. Destroyed the field.
Hmm.
He's playing like a man possessed. And when you look at his fantasy points per game, it's legit. I mean, 127.5. Like
He's making a lot of birdies.
Yeah, he's making a ton of birdies. Okay,
Spending
no particular order. I threw Hoagie on there again because he's solid.
Love it.
7,700. Not a lot of people pick him for whatever reason. And then I'm still riding the Maverick McNeely train.
All right. He had a good week last week.
Yeah, 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
Just fantastic. Young player out of Stanford.
Mhm.
Used to come and play the Ironman Junior tournament in DL. He and his family. Just so that he's
Yeah.
one of us, kind of. And then I'm going to dig you right now. This is just
What?
poking the bear a little bit. I'm putting Ricky Fowler on my team.
Okay, yeah, that's one thing I didn't want to talk about. I even mentioned it last week. I said that's my gut pick. I'm going stats, and then of course he just goes out and
Shot like
I mean,
62 the first day. Or
Yeah,
63.
I mean he struggled on coming in. Just putter got cold.
But he's
I was a
trending.
huge Ricky guy growing up.
How old is old BDR these days? Is he 30?
He's probably pretty close. Married
Something
and
like
a
that.
kid.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
So Fowler, he made my roster, and then Keegan Bradley.
Why not?
He just won. He's streaky. When he plays well in streaks.
And his putter's hot. You need a good putter on big greens like
Yep.
that.
And then I'm throwing in mostly just because he's $7,700 and that's what I had left. Brian Harmon, lefty.
Oh,
He is a workhorse. If you ever
Lefty.
need to round out your field in fantasy golf, he is always a value pick and he makes cuts. He just quietly goes about his
that'd be an important stat if there was a cut this week
right. I'm just saying in the future.
for future picks.
But so this is trending. This is a trending team, we'll see how things shake out.
Two different takes on that. How about Pat? I mean, we obviously gave the guys that we're looking for, but I don't know how close. Do you have a favorite going into this week?
Oh, I have
Just-
a team. I just put it
Oh,
together.
look at this!
I'm
got a
doing
team.
work. I'm grinding
All right, let's
over here.
go.
I'm not
Yeah.
texting.
I thought you
grinding.
might have been texting.
Goofy name team.
Goofy name team.
Yeah,
Here we
put
go.
it together.
If
We're gonna see
he
how it
wins
goes.
this week,
Yeah, he's-
No, most of these guys haven't played on the tour in years. I'm looking for lists of golfers with goofy names right now.
okay.
so.
All right.
all right, all right.
But often overlooked. We're going to go with Dickie Pride. Dickie's really been striking the ball well lately.
Poor guy.
Especially at this
Dickie Pride.
particular course. He the first round is always solid. If he can get it, whoa, there's no cut line. Yeah,
No
Dickie
cut.
Pride's
Yeah,
good.
Dickie Pride.
Dickie
You're
Pride.
good.
I'm
Write
getting that on.
one
I
down.
got him
Okay.
at like $100. Whiffy Cox, always strong at this.
That's a
particular
legit
tournament.
golfer.
Yeah.
He must be on Corn Ferry.
Let's see here. Is it a Whiffy golfer? I don't think. No, he did tie for third at the 1934 U.S. Open though. So,
Okay.
he was like $50.
Senior
I
tour.
got a solid deal
Steal.
on this guy.
Okay, you're 2 for 2.
2 for 2. Boo Weekly.
Oh, I love
Yeah,
Boo.
boo.
Yeah, good old Boo. Bryony Baird.
Briny Baird.
Brian?
Yeah.
I haven't heard that one.
And then we're gonna close it out with a classic. John
John, huh?
Huh.
Is it
a-
Huh or who?
Huh.
Okay.
I think
Is it?
he's playing this week, actually.
Honorable mention, Fuzzy Zeller. Just because God bless him.
Okay.
I think I'm gonna do well.
I like your take.
Especially
I like
no
your
cut
take.
event with
No
the
cut event.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like your. So I have to round it out with one story. If people have stuck with us through this podcast, you're
God
going to
bless
be
'em.
rewarded with this story. But funny golf names.
My mom will hear this.
Funny golf names. And this trends towards PG-13 here or beyond. I mentioned him earlier, Brad Bangan,
Mhm.
MSUM fame.
Mhm.
His best ball partner back in the day, right out of college, was John Annis.
Oh, jeez.
That's
So
a good couple. That's a good coupling right there. That's a good final day pairing.
And a lot of times, because I was around some of those events, the guys announcing the pairing, Dean Mulroot at Moorhead Country Club, had trouble pronouncing Annis.
Yeah.
He would pronounce it as anus.
Oh, jeez.
Just of all the different ways to pronounce those vowel sounds. You got like 4 vowel sounds per vowel there. You got like
ANAS.
you got just like 16 combinations of ways you can say this name. Why would you say anus? Anus. Anus. You know,
so now it's next on the tee. Banging anus.
Yeah.
But it was banging anus.
Banging anus.
And he didn't even blink. I mean, he's just oblivious to what he was saying.
Stone cold.
So
without a sense of irony.
Funny golf names.
Yeah.
Sorry, everyone, that you had to listen to that. But
I'm fascinated in the thought process.
Well, if they haven't turned it off yet, they might have turned it off after that one.
Or perhaps they turned it up.
Or turned it up. You know, we got PG-13. We know where our audience is.
Finally, it's picking up around here. Tired of hearing about Pat's music. Ugh.
Yeah.
Well, Pat, thanks for jumping on with us.
Yeah, really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
That was a great show.
Fun stuff.
I knew it was going to be a fun one. I mean, I love finding out information about people I didn't know.
I have a question. Can folks listen to your music? Is it out there anywhere, like on Facebook?
That's a good question. There's a couple of old YouTube clips that are floating around. There was a bunch of it streaming. Do you guys remember MySpace?
Oh, yeah.
MySpace.com.
Before my time, believe it or not.
I know it was. I'm not shocked by that. But for a long time, Internet Archives had preserved MySpace, and I had the old page up there, but there was like 12 songs I had streaming on there. That was, I thrived in the days of MySpace. That was my jam. But I was in a lot of people's top 8s. You don't even know what a top 8 is, but it was important.
Okay,
but long story short, all the music on MySpace Internet Archives got lost a couple of years ago, so it's all gone. So right now there is not a great streaming source. A friend of mine who I did a ton of my recording with, and some of the professional recording that I did, he actually had the masters of. He's a really talented guy, specifically in the field of audio recording. But he has everything that I recorded on his hard drive in Northeast Minneapolis right now. I mean, like, we're talking 5 versions of the same song, weird acoustic stuff. I did a full band album recording at one point that never saw the light of day. We spent a lot of time and money on it. And when it came out, I'm like, it was a full band and it sounded good, but it didn't sound anything like what I did. So I kind of shelved it. So this is a really long answer to a really short question, but right now there's not a great place, but I'm working on getting my hands on some of that stuff so I can get it out in some digestible form, some kind of consumable form that makes sense. So
good. Keep us posted on that.
Yeah. And for those out there that know how to obtain music from a producer.
Yep.
Easy way. That's the way to do it. So that's going to be our show today. Again, thanks to Pat for stepping in. Chuck, you're officially on notice, both in the golf sphere and the podcast sphere.
I picked a great team for you.
Yep.
DraftKings wise. You got some money left over?
Dickie's looking.
Matter of fact, I think you're a player short. No, you had 6.
Yeah.
Did you have 6?
Yeah. Well, Fuzzy, I didn't know how many I needed. So Fuzzy was an alternate. He just made the team.
He made it.
Fuzzy's in.
So that's going to do it for our show today. Thanks again for tuning in. Episode 3 here at Sweet Shot. So thanks again, and we'll see you next week.